Hey, what's up everybody, back with another Omega Strikers tier list. This is actually going to be for the newest patch, at least when you guys are seeing this. Depends when you guys are seeing this. If you guys are seeing this when this video was uploaded, the newest patch was 3.1.0. Depending when you're seeing it though, there could be also future patches already being released. But at least for this video, that's the patch we're going to be talking about. We actually got the newest striker to the game called Now. Brand new support hybrid kind of type striker, which we'll be talking about in this video. And it's time to do another tier list. So I'm going to be going through pretty much all the strikers, at least for like the first round of this, like how they play as like a flex or like a forward mainly. And then I'll redo the list towards like the middle of the end of the video for goalie for all the strikers. So keep in mind before I do get into this as well, this is going to be for your average tiers of ranked, from like your high tier bronze all the way up to like your high tier gold, platinum, around there for your average players. And this is going to mainly be a solo queue striker tier list for ranked. You could also take this in consideration for casuals as well, if you're looking for something to play in casuals and wondering what's good to play for casuals as well, if that's something you're looking for. But mainly a ranked, like average tier, like ranked tier list, not your top 500s, not your top like 100 players or like your elites or whatever the highest rank in this game is. I forgot what it actually is, but that type of thing. Or if people that are like dueling or like 3-stacking in rank, that's not going to be for this either as well. So keep that in mind when I do go into this. Leave a like, subscribe, share the video. Let's hop right into this. A lot of you guys are not subscribed to, a lot of you guys that watch these videos. So if you are not subscribed, I do a bunch of Omega Strikers content over here. So be sure to subscribe down below. It's a big red button. It's completely free. Really helps with the channel. I'll talk about Now. I'll throw the list on screen for you guys right now with all the tiers. Kind of a straightforward. As tiers, the stuff that's like the best of the best that needs type of nerfs or some that like that type of thing. A+ is like your above average, borderline ban worthy, maybe even ban worthy on certain maps. A tier is average, B is below average, C is situational, D is maybe only good like one map or like with certain team comp. And the F tier is unplayable. Spoiler, there is not a single striker in the F tier, so that may be a good thing depending on how you look at it for balanced reasons. So let's talk about Now. I think Now is a solid A tier. I think she's a really good addition to the game. I've had a really fun time actually playing her as well. I think she's probably one of my favorite strikers actually added to the game since Finney actually got added to the game. Kazan I didn't really care for, and I didn't really care for him, so I liked Feeney, but she's kind of really high skill cap, and she's really hit or miss most of the time. I feel like Now is a really good addition to the game. You got the supportive potential, but she also has like that type of kit where you can actually make plays. She's kind of similar to an Era. Era kind of does the same job as her, but she just has a little bit more play-making potential, and she also has a few different tools in her kit, unlike Era does. They're kind of about the same, though. I kind of rank them about the same. And speaking of Era, I'm actually throw her here on this list as well. I think Era, they're both about the same right now. I think the one thing that's really holding Now back, she is really good. Like she has a bunch of different build paths you can go with Awakenings. She builds like Creation Awakenings to like buffer or like her deployable type abilities and like the size of her abilities, which is really good. She also really likes the same type of Awakenings that like Octavius likes to build, with like blink range, projectile range. Any type of cooldown builds are really good on her. Mainly the stuff like haste buffs or like buffing your like ability type Awakenings, I think she builds really well. But she can build a pretty solid amount of like Awakening paths for her, which I think is pretty good as well. She's not really locked into like 1 or 2 Awakening paths like some of the other strikers in the game. So that's also one thing she kind of has going for her. I think the only thing that's really holding her back, like apart from like Era, because I think she's really new to the game. It's going to take a while for people to actually learn. She's not really like, I wouldn't say she's like brain dead easy of a striker to play. She's not really difficult to play either, like some of the other strikers in the game. She's kind of in the middle, kind of like a medium type, skill level type striker. So I think once people get a lot better at playing her, you can maybe see her higher on this list, at least for right now when she's first launching with this patch. I think an A tier is a pretty solid place to put her. And if I would give her some little buffs, I give her maybe some quality of life buffs or like some small cooldown reductions on some of her abilities. I think the best thing about her is probably her ult. And apart from that, everything else around her is pretty solid. But because she could use a few little small type of cooldown reductions or some type of quality of life changes. But apart from that, I think she's relatively really balanced. And I'll give him credit where credit's due. I think now, as a striker put into the game, he is probably the most balanced striker they've put into the game for quite a while. So I'll give him credit where credit's due. They did a good job balance-wise with her. Feeney was really weak on release, mainly because she was the highest skill cap striker that a lot of people couldn't really get value out of. And then Kazan actually kind of released a little bit overpowered, and they nerfed him way too much, and now he's kind of there. So overall, really good job balance-wise. Then we got Era. I might as well talk about Era as well because I put her on here. She's kind of the same thing. She's really good. I think the only thing that Era really struggles with is she gets bullied by a lot of like the more aggressive strikers that just want to like dive on people and bully you the entire game. And if you're playing solo queue, you're kind of throwing the game into your team's hands, and that's something you really don't want to do. You want to have at least some type of play-making potential. And I think Era sometimes can kind of be a little bit too passive, at least in that front. So I can't move her above an A tier. If this was like a high tier, like high ranked tier list, or like a tier list for if you're like duoing or trioing with like an entire party and like building a team around Era, I'd put her way higher because she is way better than, but just solo queuing, she's about A tier. I think is still really good. She got nerfed, I think, like 2 patches in a row. There was also a mini patch where they gave her some nerfs. I still think she's incredibly good. I think she's an S tier. I think if you know what you're doing, she's still really good. They nerfed the knockback on her teleport ability for this patch, and I think the damage and the knockback. So, and they might have nerfed the cooldown. I forgot specifically all the stuff, but that's the one thing that they couldn't get nerfed. Still really good, and even ban-worthy sometimes, depending on if you do not want to face her or not. Asher, I think, is really good as a forward still. Especially on a lot of your smaller maps, she's able to just really bully really well and able to take space. She kind of is one of those strikers that's able to really hold down an area for your team and allow you to make plays up kind of based off of that. Kind of area denial for the enemy team, like you're not supposed to go here. If they try to contest you, you just destroy them and you're allowed to make plays, and the rest of your team can kind of just make plays off that kind of. So overall, really good. Got some small balance changes recently, but nothing really changed, so Atlas, still doing really good. As a forward, though, I wouldn't really put him up here. I think he's better as a goalie. I'd probably put him as a forward, maybe like C tier. You could argue maybe B tier as well. Nothing with him's really changed, but I always think he's way better as a goalie than he is actually as a forward. And I think he has one of the like more lower play rates in the game, at least for your lower to mid tiers of ranked. So you don't really see him that much, unfortunately. At least I don't see him that much. Drakkar got some major buffs. I think he's actually A+ tier now. They buffed his haste, and I think they buffed something else about his kit for this patch. So really good. I don't know why they needed to even buff Drakkar because he was always really balanced. Now he has a lot more playmaking potential, especially with his invisibility. And I think he gets extra movement speed or something now as well. So still really good. Kind of more of a basic striker that's really straightforward to use, but if you know how to play him, he has all the tools to be really good. Dubu got hit with some major nerfs from 3.00 up until this patch. There was like I think 2 or 3 micro patches where they kind of nerfed him. He never got touched for this patch, but as a forward, I don't think he's the craziest right now. I'd probably put him at like a B tier. If you're going to be playing Dubu, you're still going to be playing him as a goalie. And the major thing they changed with him was his strike hitbox. His strike hitbox is way larger than his actual actual visuals in the game, so he was able to like hit the core way in front of him when it shouldn't have been able to go that far, and they actually kind of nerfed that down, where he's not able to like hit the core when he's like not even close to it. Pretty much goalie type stuff. It kind of nerfed his goalie playstyle and also kind of nerfed his playstyle to be really aggressive or as like a forward kind of, or like hybrid. Estelle got some cooldown nerfs and a few nerfs to her. I think she's A tier. Still really good as like a medium range, like hybrid forward. Still pretty damn good. If you want to play her, she has all the tools to still be really good. Feeney got a bunch of buffs. She's getting buffs like every single patch, it seems. The one change that she needs to be good is when you detonate your ult, you need to be able to control where the core is actually going. Until she gets that, I'm only going to put her at A+ tier. But once she gets that quality of life change, she's going right up to S tier because she's gotten buffed I don't know how many times already. She got buffed for 3.00. There was a few other micro patches in between that patch and up until now. And she also got buffed for this patch. She's been just getting non-stop buffs and quality of life changes for at least like a bunch of small mini patches and up until now. So if it keeps up and they keep doing that type of thing, I think she's going to be incredibly good. And not to mention, they also increased the projectile size and the speed on her. I think it's her secondary for this patch as well. And they pretty much gave her like a mini ability rework, which made her a lot better for this patch. She is like on the cusp of being like an S tier. She really is. You can probably even argue she's probably maybe S tier. I think she's that good. But the main thing about her ult is if you try to use it to try to get rid of the core and make plays with the core, it's very unpredictable, and there's still some times where you can kind of choke and end up giving the enemy team a free goal sometimes because you can't control the core after you detonate it yourself. So that's kind of the one thing that's kind of holding her back. Until they change that, though, I think she'll probably be S tier. You can probably argue she's already S tier, but I'm gonna put her at like the very top of A tier. I think that's where I'll put her. Juliet, I think. The main problem with Juliet is if you don't know what you're doing. I've kind of seen her kind of fall off recently, I really have. If you do not know what you're doing, you kind of fall behind in levels. I think that's the main problem with Juliet. You gotta constantly be doing something. You gotta be breaking goal barriers, you gotta be getting KOs. If you're not doing anything at the start of the game to like the middle of the game, and you're not getting the awakenings that you need to make her a lot better, then she kind of just doesn't do anything. That's kind of the main problem with Juliet. I think she's kind of fallen off. And if you want a striker that plays like her, just play X. X is probably like the best striker in the game again, spoiler alert, which kind of does the same job as Juliet does, but just way easier and way more straightforward. Still good though if you know what you're doing. The only problem is she kind of falls behind at levels really easily. That's the main problem I've been seeing. Juno, I would put Juno S tier, I really would, but the main reason why I'm not putting Juno S tier for this tier list is because X is one of the best checks to a Juno, because you can just bully the shit out of her the entire game and she can't really do anything to you. Not to mention she's also gotten buffed. There was a micro patch she got buffed about like 3 weeks ago, and there was also some mini buffs or a quality of life change or something. I think it was a bug fix. It was a pretty huge bug fix for her for this patch, so... The only reason I'm not putting her S tier, at least for like the forward like flex category, is just because X is just crazy right now. Speaking of X, we may as well talk about him. I'm throwing him into S tier. The guy is crazy. The guy is absolutely crazy. Not to mention he also pairs really well with the new striker, which everybody's playing right now. X and Now also pair together really, really well. You're able to give him the speed boost, you're able to give him haste boost, you're able to heal him with your ult whenever he's really low on health and they're about to KO him. You bring him right back into the fight, and he's like pretty much back to full health. So everything X really needs, the pairing of him and Now, which is being played a lot, just because she's a new striker, you're gonna be seeing her in a lot of her games. It just makes him a lot better. And he also got buffed again. He had some nerfs. He got nerfed for like 3.00, and then they started buffing him again for some reason. I don't know why. He's so annoying to go against. I think X is absolutely aids to this game, I really do. If there is a striker you're going to want to ban right now in the majority of your games, I think it's going to be X. I really do. I think he's probably the one, at least if you're looking to ban like a forward, I think that's the one you're going to be banning. Kai as a forward, I put it like an A tier. Nothing crazy. Nothing really crazy. Nothing really changed at all. Just the same old Kai. There's a lot of more better options, but he's still there. Kazan got some nerfs. They're trying to buff him again because they over-nerfed the shit out of him after he got put into the game. Like a patch or so after he got put into the game. I think he's still really good. I'm going to put him in an A+ tier. If you know what you're doing, I think Kazan is really good. I think the only thing that kind of holds him back is he doesn't have like an actual ultimate ability. His ultimate is pretty much a stance swap. And you're kind of giving that up over having a really good ultimate ability, which a lot of the other strikers actually have. That's the only real drawback that he kind of has. Apart from that, though, if you know how to rotate your abilities and know everything they do and that type of thing, you can put in a lot of work with them. Luna, I think, is actually really good. I think A tier, at least for a forward, I think A tier is really solid. I think as a goalie, she might be a little bit better right now, but I think as A tier, she's really, really good. Octavia, I don't know, I think she's kind of balanced. I think one of the reasons that Octavia, I'm actually going to put her A tier. I think Octavia is kind of being held back because X, and it is in every single game. And X is kind of a striker that kind of shuts her down. It really is. I think the only thing you can kind of outplay him with is if you're able to get your haste boost and keep your speed boost going by either like dribbling the core or that type of thing. And if you can't do that, the X just leeches onto you the entire game and destroys you. Because he's constantly bullying you out and you have nothing to really deal with him. That's the one thing that's kind of holding him back right now. Ramu's got nerfed. He's only good on maybe, I put him at like B tier. He's only good on maybe 2 or 3 maps. And I don't even know if Imi's app is even in ranked for this rotation. I'm not 100% sure. I think they might have even taken that map out of rotation for this patch. Because I haven't even played on it once. So I'm assuming they might have taken out of rotation. If that's the case, I would actually move him down to C tier, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'll keep him in B tier for now. Rune, this is a really good striker if you're like a high tier player. If you know what you're doing, Rune is really, really good. But I'd probably put him, at least for like a forward, I'd put him at like a B tier. He got a bunch of cooldown nerfs this patch, and he really wasn't that good to begin with, at least for your average players. He's more of a striker that's really good for your higher tiers of play and like the Rune like one-trick mains. Apart from that, you're not going to really be playing him that much unless you're incredibly good at him. There's just so many other strikers that are way easier to play and get way more simple value. Vice, I think is good. I'm going to put Vice at an A+. I think the only drawback to her is a lot of people are learning how to play it around her ult now. They're able to evade her ult with the energy boost, or the energy, whatever, energy bar. I don't know what the name is. Not for the core flip, but for the evade. So they don't take damage, and you kind of waste a lot of your ults if you don't catch people off guard. That's kind of the one thing she's kind of had like a fall in. But she is a lot better than last patch, and that's mainly because Estelle got some pretty hefty nerfs this patch. So at least for like your middle to like long range strikers, ability type strikers, I think Vice is back to being a little bit better one. Mainly because Estelle got some nerfs this patch. Both of them are still pretty good, those kind of either or, whichever one you're more comfortable playing with. And then you got Zentaro. I think Zentaro is A tier. It just comes down to the player. I think if you're really good at Zentaro and you know what you're doing, you can easily carry games. I think he's still really, really good. But apart from that, nothing with him's really changed since last patch. It's kind of average tier. And I think the one thing that's kind of holding him back too is there's a lot of maps in rotation right now that are a lot of big maps. He likes more of the smaller maps, so he's able to chain his abilities a lot more, similar to kind of a Kazan, but a little bit less range. Kazan has a little bit more range on some of his abilities. Zentaro doesn't really have that much. He has a dash and a few other things, but generally he likes the more closer range type maps, and there's a lot of bigger, like more open maps in rotation right now. So that's kind of one thing where you're not going to really be seeing him as much as he would be normally. So apart from that, that is the list for at least the flex/forward portion of this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll be right back and we'll go over each striker yet again. Alright, we're going to rank the strikers for 3.1.0 as they play for goalie and how good they are for goalie for this patch. I just threw them all into F tier just to re-rank them because it wouldn't let me put them back originally without resetting everything. So, spoiler alert, there's not a single striker that's actually an F tier, especially for goalie as well, which, at least from a balance standpoint, is pretty good, looking at it from that way. There's not like an unplayable striker right now that's just unplayable. Let's get some of the ones out of the way that you're never going to really be playing. Juliet, I put a D tier. Do not play Juliet if you're borderline throwing. I think the D tier strikers, if they're in D tier, you can play them as a goalie. If you're incredibly good, you can maybe get away with them. If you're like an absolute god at playing them as a goalie. But they're like borderline throwing tier. They're borderline F tier. That's kind of what D tier is going to be for this. You don't want to play Juliet. X, he may be probably the best striker in the game, but he's not the best goalie at all. If you're playing him as a goalie, yeah, you got some priorities backwards. You're playing him in the wrong role, 100%. Kazan, I think, is a really bad goalie. Do not play him at all. Ramus, really bad goalie. Do not play him at all. I would not play him. Like I said, you can play all these if you're like a god at them, but you're just borderline throwing a lot of your games. Octavia, I'd probably put it as C tier. The main problem with Octavia is she's really reliant on her abilities, and her kit just isn't for a goalie. You can maybe play it if you get the right amount of awakenings, and the game goes long enough to where you're able to build a really good awakening build to at least reduce her cooldowns or like buff her cooldowns to where you're able to have more movement speed and keep her either movement speed or that like buffing her haste abilities. Apart from that, you're not going to really be seeing her as a goalie, and there's way better options. What else do we have here? I don't know. I mean, Jakar, I'd probably put Jakar maybe a C tier. He's a lot better now than he was. I mean, you can play him as a goalie, I'd probably put him at a C tier as well, though I don't think he's that good. Zintaro, I'd probably put at a D tier. Don't play him as a goalie. You're borderline throwing. I'd probably put it a B tier. If you know what you're doing, you can make her work, but like there's just so many better options to play as a goalie. Same with Feeney. I think she's maybe a B tier. She has some stuff that can help you, but like the main thing is you have to land your secondary. If you're good at landing your secondary to like prevent like clutch goals, then you can maybe play her, but if you can't land your secondary at all, especially if you're like good at tracking it before, like tracking the core and like having it land at the perfect time, then you're not allowed to play her. Well, I wouldn't say that, but you're better off just not playing her at all. What else do we have here? Let's get into some of the better ones. I think Luna is really good right now. If I put Luna at A+, I think she's really good goalie right now. Especially if you know how to play her. There's a point to where you play a Luna. There's like your average Luna player would probably be like an A+. And then there's like your one-trick main or like god tier Luna player that plays goalie and can like carry the game playing a goalie Luna because they know everything. That and her ult's crazy, especially as like a goalie as more of like just using your ult and dropping it on the enemy team just to help your team when they're trying to make plays. It's just huge, especially if you can get like kills or just do a bunch of damage with how much damage her ult does. Atlas, I'd probably put an A tier. Just your average goalie. If you know how to play him, he has all the tools. Still pretty good. Asher, I'd probably put an A tier. Solid goalie. Nothing crazy. Juno, I'd probably put it. I don't know. She's probably like borderline A tier. I think I'm gonna put her B tier though. But you could argue Juno's maybe an A tier. I think the only thing that's really holding her back is she has no movement ability. She has a jump, but that like it's not really that much of a movement ability. It's mainly just to kind of dodge damage. It's not really a movement ability. Vice, I'll probably put it in an A tier. I think if you want like a medium to long range goalie in that kind of category, Vice is average if you want to play her. I don't know, I can't make her work really that good unless you get like a really good Awakening kit. At least that's me, but if you can play her really good, I think she can work. Dubu's still really good. Got some major nerfs. I don't think he's really the best goalie in the game right now anymore. And I think another problem that is happening, kind of the same thing I kind of talked about with Zintaro, is a lot of the maps that are in rotation right now are more open maps. So it's a lot less likely he's able to stand there and body block goal gates all game, unlike some of the other maps that are used to be in rotation for last split or last season. So wouldn't say he's bad at all, though. I think he's still really good. Kai, I'm going to put in S tier. I don't even know what they would even need to do with Kai to actually nerf her or nerf him. I really don't, because if you nerf Kai too much, then he becomes awful as a forward. And I don't know what you would actually nerf to make him better or like worse as a goalie and a little bit better as a forward. I'm not sure. That's the balance team's problem, though. Ruin, I'd put like maybe an A tier. If you know what you're doing with Ruin, I think he can be a solid goalie. The main problem is he got his cooldown, especially on his portals. Pretty nerfed this patch, so you're gonna have to run more of an Awakening like cooldown based build, which is kind of here or there. I'm not sure if that's really the best thing you're gonna be running on him. He likes more creation builds or like size type builds for his deployables, so or like impact builds where you're able to impact the core and get some extra speed on the core. I'll save now for last. Estella, I'd probably put it at B tier. It's below average. Nothing with her's really changed. Era, as a goalie, I wouldn't pick Era at all. I really would not. I think she's the problem with her is if she has one speed boost, but it's on like a 20-second cooldown, or it's some crazy cooldown. I don't know the exact number. Just not. She doesn't have any mobility, and she's really easy to make plays and bully out of the goal. And then we got now the newest striker of the game. I don't know where to actually put her. I think as a goalie, I mean, I've played her as goalie, and I've done pretty good. If you know what you're doing, I think she can be decent as a goalie, but I'd probably put her like A tier. I think she's kind of just average. If you know what you're doing as a goalie, you can make her work. She does have decent abilities to give you at least some movement speed. It allow you to move a little bit faster, make clutch goals, and defend clutch shots on the goal and that type of thing. She does get kind of bullied out a little bit easy, so if you're going against like some of the more of like bully type strikers like an Asher, a Juliet, an X, that type of thing, or the stuff that kind of just wants to bother you the entire game, she kind of struggles a little bit, but overall, I think she can work if you know what you're doing. apart from that, that is the goalie portion of this tier list. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Not really any like top tier goalies. We used to always have Dubu up in top tier. I don't think he's like a top tier anymore. I think Kai is probably still the best goalie in the game. You could argue probably Luna as well. Luna is probably also an easy S tier. I think if you want to like ban a goalie for this patch, I think if you're going to be looking at either Kai or probably Luna, and maybe Dubu on certain maps, depending on the map as well. But that's who at least I would ban. A lot of the other stuff I don't think it's really worth banning over like an X or an IME or a few other things. That's kind of really annoying. So apart from that, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Leave a like, subscribe, share the video. If these videos keep on doing well, I'll keep on bringing them your guys' way. I do a bunch of Omega Striker stuff over here on the channel, so if you guys not want to miss that, I also stream Omega Strikers over here on YouTube, and I also stream over here at least twice a week. And I also stream once in a while over on Twitch. There's a link that in the description. Go over there and leave a follow. That'd be great. Also have a channel, Discord, and a Twitter if you guys want to go follow over there and join the Discord. That'd be great as well. Link to both of those are in the description. Apart from that, hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to get out of here, and hopefully I'll see you guys again with the next major patch. We'll see if they actually add a new striker or what's going to happen. So, apart from that, I'm going to get out of here. Peace out, everybody.